Okay. This is a meeting of the Leominster School Committee. It is Monday, November 6th. We are at Appleseed's Restaurant. Would you all stand and join me in a salute to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, what happened? There were a little wave back there? Okay, at this time, we'll open up the public forum session of the meeting. We have a list. First is it Mary Elizabeth Maynard?
Yes.
Okay.
I tend to be a little bit wordy, being a teacher, we kind of talk a lot, but I did write this down. I've been up since 4:30 this morning. Grades were due today. So I have a little bit or a lot to say. I did cross a couple things out. Hi,
Okay.
My name is Mary Elizabeth Maynard. I teach at Leominster High School. I live at 116 Elizabeth Street in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Don't hold it against me. I've been teaching in Leominster School District since 1993. I teach sociology, psychology, and advanced placement psychology. The reason I'm speaking here tonight is to ask the Finance and the School Committee to please consider waiving the student fees of the Psychology Club and the Shine/SWAT clubs at Leominster High School. I truly believe that the strength of Leominster High School lies within the strong academic curriculum, the talented teachers, the hardworking students that we have here. We have students from many different cultures and countries. I also think that many of the clubs make our campus one of the richest in North Worcester County. We have a club for everyone. You can learn to break dance, celebrate Italian traditions, or you can help to serve people in the community by making Easter baskets for hospitalized children. I have two clubs, like I said, that I run after school at Leominster High every Tuesday and Thursday. I've run the Psychology Club since 2010 and the SWAT team/Shine Club since last year. I would like to, both clubs, even though they tend to be on the smaller side versus some of the other clubs at Leominster High School, to remain open for the 30 kids or so that those clubs service. I already said that. I wanted to say that teenage students need clubs and a place to belong after school hours. They need it for friendship. They need to be able to work with one another on projects in a calm and peaceful environment. They need a place to be, especially if they're not involved in sports. They also need clubs for their work resumes and college applications, where community service is highly stressed today.
I'm next on that list, but I'll give up my time to Ms. Maynard.
Thank you. Also, I know that some students select to attend Leominster High School through school choice because they know a certain club is running and it fits their individual or social need. I believe that all the clubs are very important, no matter how big or small they are in size. I want to ask you if you would consider waiving the student fees of the Psychology Club and the SWAT Team Club. I know that the socio-emotional needs of the students is one of the top goals in this district. Both clubs have community service, outreach, and mental health awareness as part of their main mission statements. In summary, the final questions I have for you: how were these other clubs exempted from paying the student fees, and who made that decision? What are the purpose of the fees? Why shut down clubs that bring a richness to the community of Leominster High School, even if they're smaller than 20 students? If a club has 10 to 20 students that come at different times but only have paid fees, is the school going to shut down the clubs? I'm really here for my clubs, but I also speak on behalf of the other clubs as well, and I think that all the clubs do community service, not just the ones that have been exempted from the fees. I have literature, I have pins, I have posters, I have write-ups, and I have booklets on mental health, drug awareness, and teen dating violence, and Mix It Up Day. You are free to have any of these. Thank you so much for listening, and hopefully we can save the smaller clubs at Leominster High School who also do community service and help to enrich the community of Leominster High School and the community at large.
Thank you, Mary Elizabeth.
Thank you.
It
Oh, am I supposed to say that for questions?
looks like, I don't know, we can't read your writing, but it's like Holton Harvey,
Is that right?
or it looks like.
There he is. Oh, hold it, okay.
Okay, oh, Hilton, it was hard to.
It's really good writing, but... No, it is, it's really good.
Could be a doctor.
My name is Hilton Harvey. I have been part of the Leominster High School band for 7 years now. I've been the drum major for the past 2 years. I am here to ask that you do not fee the kids $75 to participate in this program. We do a lot for the city, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, and graduation, and I do not think it would be fair to bill the kids to play at these ceremonies, which they enjoy playing at. And it's good because they get to learn what it's like to be on the road, to play the music, to play in front of a crowd, and to do different environments as such. I have learned a lot since I've been in the band, not only just the music, but how to act in an appropriate way when we are away from the high school, when we are traveling somewhere. Mr. Hudson in the back has taught us that whenever we have this blue band shirt on, we are not Susie or Billy, we are the Leominster High School band. And we have always conducted ourselves in a very appropriate manner wherever we go, and we always try and put on the best performance we can. We do not want this fee because we think it's unfair. It would impact the kids' learning. They would not be able to, it's also a class. It's not just an after-school program. I take the 6th and 7th period band class for jazz band and marching band. And I go and I travel and I play taps on Friday and Saturday. Saw Mr. Mazzarella at St. Anna's. It was a wonderful ceremony, and it's a lot more than just a club. We're also a family. So just ask you to take away the fee. Thank you.
Okay, Hill. Thank you. Carrie Noseworthy is next speaker.
Good evening, Carrie Noseworthy, 95 Smith Street. I have a few things I wanted to talk about, but I've sort of been touched by the previous speakers. I have 2 kids on the autism spectrum, and it's really hard to get them to engage in clubs. But I really agree with everything that's been said. I think that that fee, I understand that we are in a deficit, but the kids that aren't going to be able to pay that fee, those are the kids that really need those programs the most, and those are the kids whose lives are going to be impacted the most if they don't have access to extracurricular programming. I'm very happy that we are going to have a full special education parent advisory board. Bonnie Budd has done a lot of great work, and I want to give her a shout out. I also want to thank Ned Pratt for all of his hard work in helping fill all of those seats, and I'm hoping that we do great work with the school committee and getting other parents involved in addressing that $953,000 in special education unfunded positions. I wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Blake for his Viewpoint project. That is the one thing both of my children are really engaging on, and each kid can do whatever they want, so it's child directed and it's really great work. But I want to say that I'm sad that my 8th grader on the spectrum, who doesn't take part in sports or band or anything else like that, is not going to get a language this year, even though there is some language opportunities for 8th graders. So I was sad as he goes into high school. He doesn't do sports, he doesn't do clubs, he doesn't do band. He got A's in Spanish, and he will not be getting Spanish. So that kind of broke my heart. But my kid's not any more special than anyone else, and I know there's only so many language teachers to go around at Skyview. So, and my 6th grader in LEAP will be getting a language, but just for half the year, which again breaks my heart. Took them both to see Neshoba Regional Valley High School a couple days ago, and I was really, really impressed. And I felt really great, but I also felt really sad because I just hope that we can continue to work towards sort of being really proud and not having to charge $75 for clubs and really give the kids what they need. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next is Mary Caffarella.
Mary Caffarola, 4 Prospect Terrace here in Leominster. I'm here before you tonight because I'm really concerned about the future of all our students. Not just mine, yours, all of them. Not only the fees, but the underfunding that we have in all aspects of all our schools. Loss of teachers, special education not being funded right, specials. This morning, my daughter's bus was 15 minutes early. It came 2 minutes after the high school bus. She was not ready. That is unacceptable. I did call Tim. I have not heard back from him yet, but it's very unacceptable because a bus could be anywhere from 15 minutes early to 5 to 10 minutes late. And when it does come early, it's like 2 minutes after the high school bus. Not all the students, as Carrie said, are getting foreign languages at the schools. My daughter is one of the lucky ones. But it's not fair to everybody. These are students that work hard, that need these subjects. They need the foreign languages. They need the arts. They need the health. They're not getting it. They're not getting the arts the way that they should. Thank God for Mr. Hudson coming up to Skyview on Thursdays afternoons from 3 to 5 to help with the band, or else these kids would not be doing it. For those of you, I know tomorrow's on Election Day. For those of you who don't get reelected, thank you for what you've done. For those of you who do get reelected or get elected, I am asking that you get along, that you stop all the finger pointing, and that you do what is right for these students.
Thank you. Next speaker is Stephanie Beauregard, and then Holly Koski, and that concludes our list.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Beauregard, 121 Sylvan Avenue. I'll keep it short and sweet. This is just a reminder that the electrical program is the only trade that is unable to leave the school to gain real-world experience. I would like to request that the school committee look into what can be done about this situation. The junior electrical class has not been given an opportunity this year that has been offered to juniors in years prior due to the budget cuts. Without a third teacher in the classroom, the juniors have not been able to go out on city jobs. The city receives this electrical work for free. This real-world experience is needed when they apply for co-op jobs that start in January. This is unacceptable as a parent of a junior in this program, and I respectfully request that the situation be addressed immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Next and last speaker is Holly Koski.
Hi, I'm Holly Koski, and I live in Ringe. I used to live in Leominster 44 years. I just wanted to say thank you to you guys for bringing back the junior custodians. And where is it? Sorry. For bringing them back. And this time I hope that you start the negotiations early for 2018 so that we don't end up outsourcing the juniors again on June 30th, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our list. We'll now move on to Communications and Superintendent's Report, which will go past for now. And then, do we have any recognitions tonight for the John and Abigail Adams scholarships?
They're actually just in the packet.
Okay.
All right, there's a list. So we should say congratulations to everyone who has achieved that honor.
Mhm.
That's wonderful.
Is there a student report? Presentations and, there is. All right. Ladies.
Good evening.
Good
My name's
evening.
Tori Hashi. I'm Emma Burkhart. We're both seniors here at LHS, and we're involved in Student Council, National Honor Society, CAP, which is for academic achievements, GIVE, and I Do Best Buddies as well. And we also both play 3 sports. So we were just invited here by Dr. Lord to just kind of give everyone some information on what's going on in the student body.
So for sports, we just finished up fall sports, and they all had their senior nights. It was just like a night to recognize the seniors of the sports teams, and those all went well for all the fall sports.
And even though a lot of us failed to make playoffs, unfortunately, for our golf team, Zach Duffy did qualify for district, so that's pretty exciting. So even though a lot of our teams couldn't pull it off, at least we got one in there.
The end of last school year, we had a freshman move-up day where the 8th graders from Skyview and Samoset came up and just went through their schedule, and student council members helped them just get comfortable with their schedule and go through their classes. And then we also had orientation towards the end of summer, right before the school started, so that their parents could also join them in going through their schedule.
And then some other student council activities. So we had homecoming early in the season for football, which went awesome. Luckily, the rain held off for us. So we had a lot of great involvement with all the student body, and a lot of freshmen ended up helping us out with that. So it was good to get them kind of involved in student council early. So everything went awesome with that. We had our courts, and everyone had a really great time, we think.
We held freshman elections a few weeks ago, and we got a lot of new members. We have about 70 members right now for student council, and it's like the most we've had in a while, so we're really thankful that the freshmen want to get involved and spread more spirit for the school.
And then for other events, we also just started our canned food drive for Thanksgiving. So basically how we run that is we give a basket to each homeroom or first period block, and the students have to bring in canned foods just to help us, and it goes against the race with Fitchburg. So we're hoping to at least get up there with them this year. But we also started implementing a thing where it's in collaboration with Give, which is a volunteer experience club. So every class that raises over 100 cans will get like a breakfast in the morning if it's like donuts or munchkins or something. So we're hoping that that'll give some incentive to get more kids to get involved and really raise a good amount for Ruth's Food Pantry. And then the week of Thanksgiving, along with the Give Club at Ruth's Food Pantry, we have about 4 days where you can volunteer. So we have to, we bring the food, all the canned food that we raise down there, and we help them unload it and organize it. And we separate all of the Thanksgiving stuff. That way families in the district and our community can go in there and get a nice Thanksgiving dinner instead of having to spend it at a shelter.
And then another student council event we had was Meet for a Treat, where we invite the foreign exchange students to just come to the cafeteria and just meet people from around the school, so they have like familiar faces. And we have 2 foreign exchange students this year, one from Germany and one from France. So they just got to like meet people, and anyone from the school was invited. They made like an announcement in the morning so everyone knew.
And then also starting last year, we started a new award. We do Faculty of the Month now. So how that works is we'll choose a few classes throughout the school and just randomly choose them, and we'll have them, the students of that class, fill a nomination for a teacher that or a faculty member that they believe best deserves it and the reasons why. And then within student council, we have a committee who reviews all of those. And we go off of how many they get, but also the reasoning behind why they got chosen. And so that's pretty cool. So last year we had Miss Tyberski for the end of the year, and then we had Mr. Ordway for the month of September. So the new one will be announced tomorrow at the teachers' meetings. And so that's nice. It's like a nice plaque, little statue thing, and their name gets engraved in it. Okay, and then so we also wanted to talk about for the recent grant. So the CTU was awarded the 2017 Massachusetts Skills Capital Grant. And it was $500,000, and it's going to improve the machine tool and drafting shops.
And this grant will allow the development of an advanced manufacturing center that provides students with training on state-of-the-art equipment in all aspects of this industry through computer-aided design, and it is expected to be running by early 2018.
So very exciting. And then also we wanted to just address the fact that starting last year, we ended up actually, our AP scores surpassed national standards for the first time in a while, which is awesome. It just shows that all the hard work by students and teachers is really paying off in the school, and we hope to keep it up this year.
And our MCAS scores also leveled off and aren't like dropping anymore, which shows that the underclassmen are like gaining more education, taking initiative.
That's all we have.
Thank you. Nice job.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? We've had so much negative press lately. I'm lucky enough to know both Tori and Emma, and they're 2 of Leominster's finest for sure. So thank you guys for everything you do.
Come back next time.
Yeah.
We like student reports. And now we have presentations. First is CPAC.
Good evening. I'm Bonnie Budd, and I co-chair the CPAC with Maria McNamara. And also at the table with us is Michael Stassen, who is our school committee liaison for the PAC. So like Carrie mentioned, it's very exciting that we actually have a very full board this year, so we can be more active, and we've already had quite a few meetings. We do have, coming up on January 23rd of 2018, we already have our basic rights workshop scheduled with the Federation for Children with Special Needs, so that's pretty exciting. And then we're going to be hosting a transitions workshop with the Mass Advocates for Children, and the dates to be determined. So I'm going to kind of hand it over to Maria right now so she can just kind of go over what our concerns are that came out of our last board meeting.
Excellent. Well, excellent. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Currently, 23.4% of the students in our population fall under special education. As parents, teachers, therapists, principals, we all need to ensure that the children in our district are receiving the support they need under the free, appropriate public education laws. The duty of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council has two main functions: advise the school committee on matters that pertain to education and safety of the children, and participate in planning, development, and evaluation of the special education programs within the district. Our CPAC would like the opportunity to work closely with the Director of Student Services, the Superintendent, and the school committee. Where was I? Thanks. To provide a successful and educational environment to all of our children. On April 24th, 2017, a budget was presented requesting $1,555,000 to fund our special education programs. These positions were requested by the principals, special education coordinators, who base their needs off of each IEP in the school. IEPs, which I remind the committee, are legally binding documents that the district has lawful obligation to abide by. By not funding the positions that our principals and staff require, we've created a domino effect, one that I have a very subjective example of. My 4-year-old daughter, McKenna, is diagnosed with autism, receptive and expressive language delays, and childhood apraxia of speech. Her education and IEP take place at Samoset Pre-K. And Mr. Mayor, at our last meeting, you asked me if the issue was being handled, but I'd like you and the committee to know the lengths at which my daughter has been hampered. Since the beginning of the school year, there has been extreme issues with the compliance of her IEP, which specifically are receiving speech services. Her speech therapist was attending IEP meetings along with doing evaluations to start the new year for new students. But because there's only one speech and language pathologist at Samoset Pre-K to attend those meetings, there's no one there to provide speech for my daughter until last week, Wednesday. She received her first speech, which is obviously in direct violation with her IEP. We don't need to point any fingers. We don't need to put any blame on anyone, but we do need to join together and to solve this crisis. As the old saying goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Please, Mr. Mayor, committee members, these children are our future, and it's now time to invest in our future, which we so desperately need. On October 16th, 2017, a very scaled-back version of the original budget was presented, requesting $953,000. I would like to ask you all where we stand on approving either of those budgets and how our CPAC can help. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add that we do really want to work with you as the committee to help talk about and have an engaged conversation on where we stand with those positions. They're not extras. They're not if you can provide them. By law, you have to start providing those positions because those are to support children's IEPs. So again, like Maria said, we just want to have a nice positive working relationship with the school committee. So we look forward to receiving some kind of communication where we can engage in regularly and have meetings collaboratively.
Yep.
Thank you.
Suzanne?
Okay, being a former member of PAC, I decided it was time to take out the current rules because it sounds to me like some of the rules have changed. And one of the things that struck me was that you're bound by the open meeting law, which means that all your minutes and your agendas should be posted. And do you have minutes?
I do. We're getting them up on the, we're working to get them up on the website. You unfortunately eliminated the technology position, so we're working hard to get them up on there.
I think it's important that if we're going to work together,
I agree,
that we should have a list of your meetings, we should have a list of your minutes, because to be honest with you, you were a very quiet organization until last January, when there was a crisis and somebody call the state, so that's unfortunate. I mean, you should be an active, and I'm glad to see you're active now, but I think it would be really good if you could provide us with the minutes of what you
Absolutely.
have, and, you know, being on the finance subcommittee, you know, it's one thing to throw money out and say, I need this, but it's another thing to show accountability and what you need it for. And to be honest with you, we haven't seen maybe a level of detail that you have seen, so
I'm sorry, you haven't seen that from Mr. Pratt?
we have not seen a level of detail. We were in our last minutes.
Mr. Pratt up here?
I'm confused. For the past 2.5 years, I've been presenting a budget to this committee that's had extreme detail, asking for specific positions, specific detail of those positions, why they were necessary, and the costs associated with that. So can someone please explain to me from the committee that statement? I don't understand that.
I'll let the finance subcommittee speak.
First of all, hold on, 1 second. This is I thought we were getting a presentation tonight. That's what I thought we were getting. And it doesn't look like this was some sort of presentation. So I'm not going to, you know, my job is to chair the meetings and make sure that we, you know, that there's decorum here and that. And so we're not going to have this, like, battle out here like we've done this in the past. She's made a statement. She's a member of the school committee. She made a statement, and she's sharing with you that she hasn't got the level of detail and information from the group that she would expect. And so if you have an answer for that, provide the answer, and we'll move on. That's all. It's
Can I just say one?
hold on. No, is that your question? You want to rephrase the question, and then we'll get an answer?
Well, I just said that it's
Yeah.
important for us to work together, and I don't
Right.
feel, it sounds like there's more information you have than we have.
I
And-
actually pulled that from your, from the school committee minutes. The presentation that Ned presented at the last school committee meeting is the 953,000 with all the positions outlined, which is what we're going off of.
Right.
That's
And,
the detail.
and what the member asked is, if you have minutes to meetings, you can easily just circulate them in the packet so that everybody can see what got,
Absolutely.
got discussed at the meeting.
Absolutely.
So
And
I think
just
we resolved that.
To
Gets-
put in perspective, 900,000 didn't show up as a liability in one night. You know,
No, it showed up
what's
as
the evolution
1.5
of
last
it?
year.
So
1.5 last year.
if we've short-funded positions, it didn't happen overnight, and I haven't seen the evolution of it, other than last year, when you came to us and, you know, there was a grievance filed with the state.
Well, I didn't come to you with the grievance. I came to you as a public comment.
Correct.
That's all I came with.
Right.
There was a grievance because a violation was made in a
And
classroom.
that was brought to our attention. But I would encourage you to be, you know, work with us, and I would encourage you are bound by the open meeting law. You should have minutes, and if you share those with us, that would really help.
Absolutely.
And I know previously, we used to be on, PAC used to be on the agenda of the school committee once a month. Just give us an update, and I think that's an important.
Is this a political group or something?
No, it's special ed,
What-
parent
what-
advisory council.
Is this a political group?
No, it's an acronym.
It's a requirement of the special education regulations,
It's an
Mayor.
acronym. It stands for Special
I
Education
understand.
Parent
I
Advisory
understand.
Council. It's
I
not a
understand.
PAC like a political
I
group.
understand.
Just to the committee,
I'll
just
enter
from-
this into the record after, when we're through with the meeting. I'll give it to you. No, enter into the record. Okay. Next question, I think, yes, go ahead.
Were you not? Okay. Just two quick reminders. I just want to remind this committee and that last school year, Bonnie was running the CPAC on her own and came to us and requested a liaison from us to help her get things back and running, and it was turned down. And she was told no. And then I want to remind everybody that these positions are not news to any of us. The breakdown we saw last year was extremely detailed, and it was a lot more money than the extremely detailed breakdown we're still getting of needed sped positions. So this is not news.
Okay. Kristen, go ahead.
So when we looked at the line item budget a few weeks ago, we did notice in the finance subcommittee meeting that several of your lines had gone up by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm not sure if that was to make up for the super underfunding, from last year. So Glenn, did we invite Ned for Monday?
That's the undersigned, right there.
Just to
I just want to see, did we invite, we're going to go over the lines on Monday for finance. Did we invite Ned yet? Yeah, no, okay, well, we had talked about.
I'm not available next
So-
Monday night, so I can't be there.
Okay, so even if
And just
there's
to
a-
respond, it's not several items with several $100,000. That's not, that statement is not accurate. You need to review each of those, and I'd be happy to do that in writing with Glenn.
So that
I
was
just don't
one-
want that to be misinterpreted. And the reason why they went up is that we do have increased cost for contractual service, and a couple of other costs that were discussed in my budget that I submitted to the school committee last year. Those costs were included in the increase. This is not, again, this is nothing new that I submitted to the
No,
committee.
so-
This was a request that was made as part of the budget that I believe that in the development of the budget, the business manager included in the budget. So you had explanations of this back in March when I submitted my budget.
So, and I could talk offline with you about what we need for Monday, because there were several lines that had, I think one of them had a $500,000 increase, and I was thrilled.
There is no line in my expense budget that went up $500,000.
So what?
I'm sorry, I mean, I don't understand which line, and if you have that, please cite it, because that's not,
I don't have it with me.
it's not, Glenn, do I have a line item that went up $500,000 that wasn't transportation-related or tuition-related?
Yeah.
I think we should go
and then-
offline.
No, that's not correct.
I remember it as well. So you just need to come on when the next finance.
I just asked the business manager, and he said, no, there isn't.
All right, well.
So
three
when we
of us
make
remember.
these statements in public, folks,
No.
excuse me,
No,
when we
no,
make
no,
these
no, no,
statements
no,
in
no,
public.
no,
Ned.
I was happy, Ned, that if the administration was able to fund you more, and I just wanted to find out what happened, because
Right.
we had an issue with, are we in compliance, are we out of compliance? I don't think there's anyone on this committee that doesn't want to get you every penny that we can. There's no doubt about it. So I'm happy to send a request afterwards, because there were several lines, and maybe it was, they're not correct. I mean, I don't know. We just rely on that information, just to find out what was able to get funded, and then what you still need, because it looked like a lot was able to get funded. So we can talk about it offline, but I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, because it just doesn't sound like we are. So we can, if you can't come Monday, that's fine. We can, do it via email or on the phone or live or whatever.
That would be fine.
Okay. Cody, go ahead.
I just want to say, I think compliance is a very serious issue in this district, and, something that not only our students will pay dearly for, but something that we as a district could pay dearly for. And, it will be good to have a partner in trying to find a solution to this issue. And, I hope in the coming days, maybe we can, establish like a monthly meeting or an official liaison, because we do need to work on it, absolutely. And, I think this is a great step forward.
You can't, that's like a violation of the law. Okay, thank you. And if we could get the minutes. We'll talk offline. Okay. Next is the PPS update.
That'll be next meeting, Mayor.
Okay, next is a presentation on technology. And as much as I know and we want to understand all this technology, there are a lot of slides here. I assume you're going to do the sort of the bottom line version of this presentation. It's pretty, I'm impressed with it, and I did look at it, and it made very much sense to me, but it's long. Okay, all right. Thank you.
And if we're getting too detailed, just let us know.
You can't do that. That's a big violation. I'm going to talk to Attorney Angelini.
We'll be glad to address them at the end. If there's something that someone had a question about, we'll be glad to.
Yep.
No, actually, Steve, If it's appropriate, if
Well-
people want to ask questions while we're talking, I don't know, I mean, that's fine with us.
So you want to just start off explaining sort of what your scope of work has been?
Sure. So that
Thank
was
you.
slide. Jody, if you can get to slide, I think that's slide.
No, we're doing the intro.
No, but the mayor asked to talk about our scope of work, so
Yeah,
we'll just go
so
right
you were
to
brought
the.
in to do provide a certain function, right?
Right.
Okay.
So here are the project goals. This is the scope of work that we were requested to do, which was to assess the current state of the technology and determine immediate needs and emerging needs, identify and prioritize all of the critical issues, develop a tactical plan to remedy immediate issues and reduce ongoing costs, fix high-priority technical problems, and provide ongoing technical advice. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that we reordered these goals a bit because we needed to get school ready, and there were certain technology issues that came up that we felt were more important to do a little bit out of order so that the classrooms and the labs were ready and the network was up and issues were resolved as well as we could resolve them. So
So you were trying to do your sort of diagnostic piece, trying to keep the system alive at the
Exactly.
same time.
what is it, fly, build the plane and fly?
Got it.
Okay, thanks. So the methodology, the next slide. So basically, we did do the assessment piece first. The methodology that we use, and we've used this in all of our projects throughout the country, is we conduct interviews and focus groups. We always review documentation. We monitored the network at all the sites, and this is Steve's specialty. He monitored the switches in all the schools to identify errors and bottlenecks on all the school networks. We also looked at all of your mission-critical applications, and you have a lot of them. A very key piece was reviewing your tech support structure, and then trying to get, and this was really challenging, an adequate inventory of your devices. The tech staff in the schools did a tremendous job, but you do not have one system where you can actually keep all the inventory.
Are they barcoded? Our system at City Hall is, every piece of equipment, technology-related, has got a barcode, so we can scan it in and see what we
All the
have.
ones we've seen are barcoded.
Okay. So they did know where they all were then? They knew what pieces they owned and servers and PCs and...
That's really debatable.
Okay, all right, I got you.
I think that the network manager knows where all of his equipment is. The people in the schools know where a lot of their equipment are. There are issues with things like Macs and iPads. There's some question about where some of these things are.
Okay, gotcha.
Do you want to add anything?
No.
No? Okay. So basically, once we triangulated the data. So we took all the data. We had 34 key stakeholder interviews, and when you receive the report, all of the people will be listed, all 34 people. We had 4 focus groups. We went to all the schools, and we've been located at central office, but we've been at all the schools multiple times. I can't even think, over 40 countless documents we reviewed, looked at purchase orders, tried to look at the inventory information. Steve took a look at the historical bandwidth from last year to this year, and he's going to talk about that in a bit. And then we looked at your mission-critical applications, and again, looked at the support structure. So one of the things we really want to do is focus first on commendations, because as you all know, you lost tech people, and we think that really kudos to the folks who are still here. And I'm going
They
to...
really stepped up, the remaining staff.
and I'm going to have to read this. So first of all, you have a really highly experienced network manager, and he's kept the network up with little support. He's had major challenges with the internet and wireless. I'm sure you all know about those issues. And both at Skyview, Samoset, and the high school. In addition, he's keeping the servers up and providing support to the tech support staff at the schools. In addition, the limited staff in the building, you lost 3 people. We recommended immediately that you get 2 people back. The superintendent and business manager agreed to that, and so you now have 5 people. So you're just down 1 person.
In the schools.
In the schools. And they came in a week late because 2 of them started. They would have come in a week earlier and just really stepped up, got the labs up and running. They got the classrooms up and running. I mean, they really just did a tremendous job. The other thing I want to say about the building level tech people, which is just amazing, is the way they collaborate. As soon as one person learns something, they pass on that information to everybody else, and that's really tremendous, especially since they're all pretty much self-taught. Most of these people have been dying to go to professional development courses. None of them have been able to go. However, the people down at Central Administration, at least 2 of them went, because I have a folder with all the courses that they've attended, went to countless professional development opportunities. So that really, recommendation is that really has to change, and that's something that's really critical. Since school started, the staff has closed hundreds of trouble tickets. Another thing to know is that some of the tech staff have shared buildings now that they've never been in before, new administrations. And they're traveling more than they were. You also have a data analyst position, and she has been invaluable. She's been fixing ASAP inconsistencies, uploading map testing data, helping resolve ELL reporting issues, etc. However, this position is underutilized. This position really should be somebody who works with the schools, with the teachers, with the principals, analyzing data for student achievement. And the last, there's 2 more kudos. One is your Aspen student system data analyst. She has kept your documentation and your procedures, impeccable. And we have not seen that anywhere else in the tech department. So kudos to her. And the last is the free and reduced lunch count has been maximized, and what's important for you to know about that is that brings in money, and that brings in money for Title I, and it helps you get your E-rate numbers up. So, kudos. The next we want to talk a little bit about is deployment of Google Apps. Another kudo here, because it's been a grassroots effort. It's been growing over the last 3 or 4 years. It's been spearheaded by teachers and principals, and now it's entrenched. And I think that especially the students and teachers are really finding it quite helpful. At least 1,400 Chromebooks are being used for Google Apps for Education, which is now G Suite. And the last is that the principals and the assistant principals are now helping out with a lot of the important mission-critical applications, such as Baseline Edge and ASAP and the website. So you've got a good group working together.
Now, I wanted to start talking a little bit about the current landscape and kind of where we go from here. When we interviewed a lot of people, we realized that with the staff reductions, you still had to keep all the systems, all the computers up and running, but with fewer staff. So what we focused on was trying to simplify the technology environment. It's very complicated, and we're trying to consolidate that as much as possible. It needs to be simplified both so the techs can support it better and so the users can utilize it better. The other thing we found out, and we'll go on this a lot more, is duplication of effort. A lot of data is entered in multiple times in different systems by different people, and that presents problems. So some of the key observations we have is that there's no formal structure in place to oversee the technology planning and implementation. There's no guide other than the person who used to be, the people who used to be in the tech department. You need input from teachers, from principals, students, other stakeholders to try to help guide where you want to go, and that just wasn't happening. People were complaining it was slow and unreliable, and there was a big debate between two different platforms. You had some people advocating for Google, and you saw that that's really expanded out quite a lot, and others really wanted the traditional Microsoft systems, and those were battling back and forth. And where that ends up being a problem is that it was kind of, we only want one or the other, and that was never one, so they have two parallel systems that have very little to do with each other. And that's one of the things we'd like to see, that they coexist.
So,
There's an
are you saying they could coexist?
Yes.
Excuse me?
Yes.
So you're saying they're not too obsolete? They're
No,
just,
they're
they just
both,
need to be
they're
integrated.
both good, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on why that's causing problems in a
They can,
second.
yeah, the answer is
Right.
yes, they can
And
coexist.
we're coming up with recommendations to
Gotcha.
make them work together much better than they are
Good.
now. The number of staff you've got really isn't sustainable, we think, in the long run. We look at other districts such as Haverhill that has about the same population that you do. They have 12 technology support staff. Right now, you're down to
Eight. Eight?
6. So, and we understand you've got financial constraints, and we understand kind of where you got there, and we're trying to be as respectful for that as possible. You want to handle the school openings, since we're here?
Sure. Well, we already mentioned that we recommended the rehiring of 2 people, and we've taken steps to improve network performance and reliability. That had to do with the monitoring. Regaining control over Google Apps for Education. This has been, and you really need to know, as a school committee, you need to know that this has been really and truly one of the most challenging things I've done since I started doing this work in the early 90s. First of all, in most tech departments, the tech director keeps a list of usernames and passwords. They're either put in a safe, there may be multiple copies given to discrete people.
This is for all the critical administrative systems, not individual people's.
Okay, so when it came to Google, first of all, you have a domain. It's leominsterschools.org. This domain was purchased by someone, and then this person was reimbursed for the domain. However, we could not for weeks get access to that domain. Therefore, we could not get the username and password to Google. The person would not give us the username and password. We had to prove to Google that we actually owned the domain. So it went back and forth. I don't know how many weeks did it go back and forth, but it went weeks and weeks and 5 or 6 weeks, until finally, try to get a person at Google is impossible. I finally got an advertising person who gave me a salesperson, and I basically said to the salesperson, this salesperson couldn't help me. I asked for the manager, we don't have a manager. I said, okay, so let me tell you what's going to happen. You're supposed to be helping schools, right? Yes. You want to sell to schools, right? Yes. I said, okay, well, what would happen if all of a sudden everybody found out that you refused to help a school district get the username and password for a domain they legally owned? And literally within an hour, the district got the username and password. So it took that long and that much effort. And it's been like this for every single major system that you have, for us to get the usernames and passwords. And in some cases, in some of these systems, it's not one set of usernames and passwords, but multiple that do multiple things. And Case in point, which is really critical, School Messenger. It's not just to send out messages about snow days, it's to send out messages about an active shooter. So if your information is incorrect, you're going to be in trouble. So the sixth graders, I guess it's the sixth graders going into, fifth graders going into middle school, the eighth graders going into high school, the new students, new teachers, we couldn't get access to the system for ages in order to get these people into the right places. The good news is that they're all set. We're still having some iPad delays, and we're hoping by tomorrow that will be fixed. But it's been a real challenge.
Need to speed up some.
Okay.
Anyway, that's just kind of an idea of how a lot of these things are going. For the learning environments, as I'm sure you know, I'm sure you know, there are a lot of interactive projectors and document cameras in the classrooms that are being well used. There are a lot of Chromebooks on cards that give you the ability to bring the card into a whole class, so they don't have to go down to the lab. In a way, the lab comes to them and they can use it. But many of the computer labs have very old Windows computers that are prone to failure, and there's no formal policy for funding replacements for this type of equipment, and would like to see the district adopt some type of a refresh cycle to replace equipment on a regular basis. You are going to have a major decision coming up in the future.
Near future.
When you've got these labs, and maybe it's an opportunity with a lot of Windows computers in it.
Thank you.
That are getting old, you're going to need to replace them. Are you going to keep that room as a lab? Will you replace the Windows computers? Or will you put in other computer types like Chromebooks? So that's a big decision.
Or laptops, or other types of devices.
And this is why the two different systems of Windows and Google is a problem. Is students and staff have two usernames and two passwords that they have to use in different ways. The teachers have two email systems that they have to check, two calendars, two sets of contacts. And it's difficult coordinating that between people who are not using the right calendar.
Right.
They can't have access to it. And the two systems have different naming conventions. One of the things we found out was that the Windows files that students have are available from home, but the previous tech administration did not want this to be known.
We don't know why.
We don't know why, but there was just, it wasn't done. It was part of this battle of the different applications. So we're recommending that you simplify things by having the Windows domain that has all the users and passwords mirrored to Google. So the same username, same password you use on your Windows computers, you use on your Google computers. We can establish a single email in the back end, but still let teachers and staff and students decide whether to use Outlook, which is what they're typically using, or whether they use Gmail to access the system. And we want to come up with a common way of accessing files, so all the files you have are accessible from home. And one of the things that we also feel very strongly is that we think the schools will have better support if they have better communications with the home and the parents and the guardians. And we think that's beginning to be in place. The district has a district website, and each school has a website. The district has a centralized registration for new students, which helps focus a lot of the effort. The school messenger delivers the voice messages to parents, and there is a parents portal that's being tested out in the high school. We've had requests by some of the middle school principals to try to expand that out into their areas. So our recommendations in that area is to fix some of the issues associated with the website, and we've identified those. We'd like to expand the use of the parent portal to other schools. The school messenger can send out emails as well as voice messages that you leave on someone's answering machine, and we'd like to see that happen. And we think the centralized student intake is a good process. So this system, the next section is going to talk about some of the entering data into multiple systems and why that's a problem. If you go to the next slide. Next. Now just hold it there. This is more meant to scare you than anything else. These are all the different systems that you've got. The key system here is this one in the center, the student system, Aspen. But it needs to talk to a lot of other systems, including special ed, state reporting, the health system, school messenger, the evaluation systems, a lot of these things. So, and the report will go into this more. What I'd like to do is, the result of this is, can you go to the next slide? Is that very often data is entered into one system, someone prints it out, gives it to someone else, and they enter it into another system. Maybe not always. Maybe it's wrong. So the net result is this data is inconsistent between the different systems, and you can't really tell which one is right. And we're seeing that some of this inaccuracies are causing decreases in state funding. We've had someone from the the Department of Education and Secondary Education come out here, and they've identified areas where the files that are sent to the state don't have the right information that are correct in some of the other systems. And because of that, you're not getting all the funding that you need.
And it's being fixed.
Yes, so we're recommending that you, yes, ma'am.
Are you working with Glenn with that, on that? Or is
Yes.
Glenn is spearheading that.
Can you give us the ballpark?
For the last 5 months, we've made a concerted effort to try and maximize the amount of revenue we'll be able to collect from the state when they do their foundation budget in January. And towards that end, we've tried to maximize the number of students who are considered economically disadvantaged by direct certification by the Parent Information Center, trying to make sure that every student that receives English language learner services is accounted for in the SIMS database, and a number of other areas such as that. And we knew there were issues that needed to be resolved, and it just was serendipitous that we happened to have Tech Edge here to help us address some of our concerns and tell us a way to resolve them. And we were able to bring in the expert from the state prior to submitting our report at the end of last week to try and maximize the amount of revenue we get. The problem in Leominster is if you have resident pupil enrollment going down, every student that leaves, that's $11,000, $12,000 you will not get this next year. But if you can add 10 ELL students at $1,700 a pop, it's $17,000. If you can add 2 economically disadvantaged kids at $4,100 a pop, so we're trying to ameliorate the decline in revenue and hopefully increase it. We won't know the exact data, even though we made our submittal to state, because it doesn't do their evolution till either late November or sometime early December, because they have to do it in time for the government to provide House Bill 1 in January. But we're making every effort to maximize our revenue. And yes, we do work together.
So you'll let us know when you get that number?
As soon as we have that information, because that's how that helps us determine what our number will be for next year.
Okay, thank you.
I have one other comment to make on that. I think over the years, every year your child brings home a emergency information form for parents to fill out and return back with corrections on different things. Due to manpower or less manpower, I have a feeling that some of those things haven't been kept up to date as well as they should. I mean, I know at the high school it fell to one person to go through every child's card to see if there was any changes, and it's very easy to overlook that to happen. And I mean, I know myself, for my grandchild, I had to make the same correction this year as I did last year. So hopefully that got made. I think we need to find a better way of how to do that, and how to transfer, as you said, how to transfer data for when they go from one school to the next school, from elementary to middle school to the high school, because it seems that's where the gap kept falling. I know from having worked at the high school, a lot of parents said, I made those changes back in middle school. Well, here we are with the same information, we gotta make it again. So, yeah, I think we need to find a way to bring all this under kind of one hat, so that we can be more efficient in our data collection and how we update it.
And I think the good news is you have some systems that can be made to share data well. It's just that they haven't been.
So this next slide gives you a view of the different student data types. So you have the demographic data, your traditional data that's kept in Aspen. You have school processes. Often these processes are in documents, if they're documented at all. You have perceptions and attitudes, so if you do school climate surveys, you have that data. And then down at the right corner, you have the student learning, where you may have your MCAS and your MAP and SAT data. And the main problem is that a lot of the student assessment data, so the data in the right bottom quadrant, that those data are not available to the people who really need it. And here are the barriers. Really, not having that assessment data are barriers to improve student growth. So for example, MCAS, MAP, SAT, these data are not loaded into your Aspen system.
Or to any of your systems.
Please forgive me. When you say it wasn't loaded, or it wasn't put in, what happened?
It's just not put in. And a lot of districts.
What was the rationale behind not putting it in?
We don't know. It was put in a couple of years ago.
No, in baseline. I don't know if it's ever been put in Aspen. I don't know. It should be. Maybe it's manpower. But it's
So
usually.
you're saying this I'll be very simplistic. Let's say this information, it was about me, my grades in whatever grade.
The grades are in. It's the SAT scores, it's your MCAS, now MCAS 2 scores.
It wasn't put in the other, it was just kept there, like in a
It's-
silo.
Right, it's in a silo, it's not in Aspen.
And teachers can't see it, principals can't see it, guidance counselors can't see it in an electronic form. They might be able to find the paper someplace.
Kristen had a comment.
Hi, sorry. Do our systems, Aspen, have the ability
Yes.
to?
Yes.
Right, so the
Most
systems
districts-
are adequate. The
most
systems are
districts do.
adequate.
They're
Nobody's
just
put
not
the
utilizing it.
information in.
No one has done the effort to get it in. It can be done. It's not, the staff people you've got have the ability to do that.
Was the effort done into a different system?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because there's something called Baseline Edge, and so Baseline Edge at one point had some of the assessment data. And Baseline Edge, if you may get confused, because we were confused, we were sitting next to them at MassQ last week, and they are now IO Education, so it's the same company. They have two components. They have an educator evaluation system, and then they have a student analytic module.
And data had been put in. Steve Mamoni had worked really hard on getting that data into the analytical piece a couple of years ago, and
He loved it, his teachers loved it.
But there's only one place.
well, what we really feel should happen is that all of the data should be put in Aspen, and then from Aspen, using, whether it's Clever or using some form of export it into Baseline Edge and any of the other appropriate systems that you have.
All your student system really should be in one system.
Okay, here's the trick question. I feel like, how long, from what you saw and what you were looking at, one, how long had this been going on? And two, which students were affected? And three, how did it affect their performance in classes? Are
Okay,
those loaded
Ron,
questions?
there's another, we're going to go from page 23 to 35. So the answer is, the system can handle it, right? The systems that are in place. They don't know why it wasn't entered in. They're just telling you that things that could have been
I
entered in
realize that, but
haven't
I wanna know
been.
how long it's been like that.
Forever.
From
Yeah.
the time Aspen started.
Right.
From the
It's
time,
never been
from the time before that, when.
So, so if we don't move along in here, we'll never get to Aspen. We'll never get to Zebra, because we have another, I don't know how many more pages to go here, and each one's taking over 10 minutes. So we still have executive session and a full agenda. So, I read through this. I fully understand everything that's in here. So I don't know if you can sort of give us the bottom line here and go through this?
Do you want to go real fast through the network?
Go through the
highlights of.
Highlights of the
highlights.
network.
If you go to slide 26.
25 is pretty obvious here. This is your
Yeah, that's-
Comcast
that's your
internet.
traditional Okay,
That's
the
the
internet.
system the city supplies. What we did is, when we signed a new contract for cable, and our cable, what we did is, we added in a whole other subsection of funding to get the schools wired under the contract. Next contract is up in 2 years.
Great. What we're seeing is, we're seeing on this chart here that we are seeing more internet use this year than last year, and you can see kind of from the chart that both in the middle and elementary schools and the high school, there's more.
Can I just make a point about the funding? There's
Sure.
other funding sources too for,
I was gonna.
oh, okay, you do that.
And
And
basically,
one of the complaints we get in various schools is that the internet is not fast enough. That's something that we all
true.
experience.
that's especially true in the elementary schools. It looks like the middle and high schools and all the people associated with that, they're really in fairly good shape. It's the elementary schools that have the older equipment, and we're recommending that, in the past, you've been using E-rate to pay
Right.
for the upgrades
Yep.
in the high school and the middle schools. Use that same E-rate funding in the next few years to help improve the networks in the elementary schools. E-rate pays for 80% of it. It's in pretty good.
What about the grant?
And you want to add the grant?
We can talk about the grant.
There's also another state program that you might want to consider. The deadline's like a week from tomorrow. That can provide some additional funding for you, called the Digital Connections Partnership Schools Grant.
And Steve has
And
been
we can
doing
give you some information
and he's
on
been
that.
doing the E-rate for that grant. All the grantees have to use the same E-rate provider, and we've been doing that for the grants since they've started, 4 years ago, 3 years ago?
So is that a grant that Wendy can write for us?
Wendy's extremely busy with all of she's compliance and grants she's putting in. I think you need to find somebody in the school department that knows how to write the grant.
Okay, thanks.
They've tried to
These aren't really involving grants. I mean, these are just filling out paperwork is what they are.
They've tried to simplify, and they're
Exactly.
actually, as a matter of fact, they got in touch, they called here, and they know us because we do,
Right.
Mass IT, we do the work for them.
We happen to
And-
answer the phones, as no one else was
Yeah,
there.
but they also asked, they sent me an email asking that we get the word out because there's still a lot of money left that they want to give away, so.
All right, so we need to identify somebody to apply for that. Is that something that you would be able to assist whoever if they have questions?
Yes, we can help.
Excellent.
And they've made it easier this year.
You can pay a consultant or somebody to write this thing up in no time at all. I mean, we do this all the time.
We write grants.
That's what I'm saying. It's worth, if there's a week left, it's worth paying somebody to do it if we're going to generate enough.
So staffing, we're coming to the end of the presentation, staffing. So the next slide, this slide shows you your organization prior to 6/30/17. And you can see that you've got centralized, you've got 4 FTEs. Then at the schools, you had 6 FTEs, so that's 10. Then you have a data secretary and a data analyst. So many districts include that, whether or not they report to the director of technology, they still include that as a tech position. So that's 12 people. After July 1st, this is what the organization looks like. And I tried to figure out who reports to whom, and it's not really clear. The only person we know that the data secretary reports to Gina, and that the tech support people report to one or more principals. But it's not really clear who the network administrator reports to or who the data analyst reports to. So this is what you have. You've lost 4 positions. This is the current organization. This next slide, which I'll keep this really brief, we've been looking at functions and focus in functional areas for school-based technology for years, and we've come up with, 5 different job families with the focus and then the functional areas in those job families. So for example, IT management, that's your director of technology, or the new term is director of digital learning. That's really the focus is, they are administrators, the focus is improvement. And one of the things that we've noticed there's 2 things that you're really missing even in your old structure is the whole digital learning piece that could really be shored up, and also having a set of external advisors, having a technology advisory committee that meets monthly. We've seen that work really well in a number of districts.
External to the IT, not necessarily from the community, though that could also be done.
That's what we use, we call the ITTF at City Hall. That's what we use.
So-
It's a combination of department heads and IT people.
And in one district we worked with, and it worked really well, they had teachers, curriculum coordinators, students, school committee members, they had a variety, they must have had about...
Someone from the general public.
Right, so they had about 12 to 15 people, met monthly for 2 hours, a set agenda, started on time, started at 4, ended at 6, and like clockwork for a year. And they were the ones who really came up with their tech plan.
And the plan is going to be important because if we negotiate a new contract for our cable, our 10-year agreement, we're going to need, and this is what happened last time, is we asked for a complete blueprint to exactly what the schools needed. We got some we didn't, and that's probably the lag in the older schools. But this is good to get ready for that next round of negotiations that we're going to have, soon. Contracts up.
So we have an interim organization, and then we have a potential long-range organization. And in the interim organization, and so there's the network administrator. We're suggesting a new FTE called a tech coordinator, and I have a little description and a salary range. An additional FTE for tech support staff at the schools, and then keeping your data analyst and data secretary. And if you'll excuse me, I really wasn't clear who these folks should report to. It could be a tech coordinator. Perhaps makes more sense to go to the director of curriculum. But you still need those positions, and the data analyst really should be working with the teachers and with the principals, so it may make more sense. The big thing and the really exciting thing, and I'm sure you all know about this, is the student CTEI internship program. And it's called the Information Support Services and Networking Program that is starting at CTEI. And they are going to be able to provide internships to help support technology at the building. So congratulations to everybody for this project. It's really exciting. And then you're going to, of course, outsource certain tasks. Now, I've been asked about the description. If you want me to do that now, I can do it later if you're really tired. But basically, the salary range of this tech coordinator is, I've looked nationally, it looks like it's mid-50s to, low to mid-60s at the most. This is not a director of technology.
Right.
This is a lower-level position. And then longer range, the last slide is your longer range. And one thing I should point out, because it looks like you have 6 more people in the tech department, you don't. We've added digital learning specialists. I think you really need to start thinking about having a director of digital learning and having digital library media people kind of segue over to digital learning specialists. So, it's a lot, I know. Questions?
Is there anything in the slide that we skipped over that you think is really important that we didn't need to know?
Is there anything that we skipped?
I just know this kind of
We
went.
skipped over one, no.
Okay.
I think we got all the things that
Okay,
were
good. Well, because we paid you to do this, so I just want to say thank you so much, and this presentation was really great and thorough, so I just didn't, I wanted to make sure that, that we gave it the attention that it needed. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
You did a good job.
And we've also tried to just give you the highlights of the things we've found.
We could really get in the weeds and bore you to death, so.
Thank you. Before they leave, I just want to make sure we have 1 week to apply for a grant.
Right.
Who's going to coordinate with you to do that? How do we do that?
We'll check with purchasing in the morning. And Glenn, if you can check with purchasing in the morning and see what, I don't know if that's part of the state bid list or whether it's under that threshold,
I'm good with that.
but it's worth applying for. You don't miss that opportunity.
She offered to Perfect.
Oh, you're going to do it?
You will do it?
I'm normally not very, I'm a good grant writer, so I can't guarantee that you'll get this, but.
No.
Right.
But we also know the folks at the state, so that might help too.
Right. So then I think that's where we should take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're willing
It's okay
to
with
do that,
you?
we appreciate that.
Yes.
Okay. Excellent.
Do we have,
Okay, thank you.
do we have?
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Yes. On a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to go enter into executive session under Chapter 39 for the purpose of strategy and negotiations with non-union personnel, because an open meeting may have detrimental effects on the bargaining or litigation position of the school committee. And we will be returning.
Okay. This is a yea and nay vote. Begins with Mr. Hool.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay?
Yay.
Yay.
We are in executive session, and we will be returning after the meeting.
Yes.
Is there something?
Back in session, and I'm going to make a motion, and I just wanted folks to know before I make the motion that this is something that the school committee and the superintendent has been working on for a period of time now. And it culminated with I'd like to make a motion that the school committee accepts the resignation of James Joliker of Superintendent of Schools effective the 6th of November, 2017, and that the school committee votes to approve the terms of the party separation agreement and to authorize the mayor on behalf of the school committee to approve and sign said separation agreement, also effective the 6th of November, 2017.
I'll
Okay.
second.
And this would be a roll call vote. Ron?
Yay.
Yay.
Yay?
Yay.
Yay?
Yay?
Yay.
Okay, unanimous? And, yeah, this wasn't a decision that was made today and calculated for today. This was sort of ongoing, and there are some laws that we had to comply with to.
And some negotiations.
Right, so, okay, so,
And,
now, we need another motion to,
no.
no, I mean,
She
she
said to go
said
ahead.
she'd take it, so I
Okay,
gotta
so
assume she will.
the same motion that we did in?
Yes,
okay.
same thing
So
we did.
I'm making a motion that we offer and go into negotiations to offer the position of acting or interim superintendent to Paula Deacon.
I'll second.
Okay, so this doesn't have to be a voice vote, but any questions at all? So we will have to enter into, so offer the position, and then within the next couple of days, we'll have to sit with her, the negotiating committee, and come up with a salary that is fair, and we will ask her for a report back in 30 days of her observations of financial situation and whatever observation that she has, that she will make back to us in approximately 30 days.
If we're going to enter negotiations this week, I'm going to decline
Oh, yeah,
the
yep.
situation.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion to second. No other questions? If not, all in favor, signify in the usual manner. So we will, if you want to let her know, let her know, and,
If Nona needs someone, is there an alternative for the negotiations?
Well, there's,
Me and
Two of them
Cody.
on
the
There's me and
subcommittee
Cody.
as well. Just let me know.
yeah.
And I'm
But
available
I mean,
also.
after Friday, I'm available.
But if it needs to be before that, both Cody and I are available during the
Well, I
day.
think we want to move on it quickly, don't we?
yeah.
Yes.
Well, we wanted
So-
to start tomorrow. She's going to start tonight.
Will she start? I mean, even
Yeah.
though we haven't negotiated?
Nah,
Okay.
she's now the
Okay.
Yeah, but
interim acting.
Cody and I are both available.
So,
I mean, I think like in any other union, when you're entering into negotiations, you're, you have a time frame that you can work with.
Right, and
It
obviously.
doesn't have to be immediately.
Okay, just as long as we.
yeah, so whatever
great.
you come up with. Okay, so we have a new an acting superintendent, so that takes care of that. And anything else in here that we need to address tonight?
Warrants.
Warrants? Anything under the warrants? Finance?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following warrants. Warrant 14 for $338,930.04. Warrant 15, $2,051,350. I'll start that one over again. $2,051,355.88. Warrant 16 for $706.91. Warrant 17 for $2,183,768.14. And under grants and revolving funds, warrant 14 for $62,932.82. Warrant 15 for $148,462.58. Warrant 16 for $540,907. And warrant 17 for $243,016.69.
You
I'll
spent a lot of
second.
money. Okay,
I second.
motion is second. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor? Those opposed? Thank you. Anything on the policy?
No, we didn't meet last month,
All
so
right.
we are on the agenda, though, for the 20th.
Oh, yeah.
20th.
Kristen,
And finance. Anything else?
yes, I do actually, what? The special donation account.
Oh, yeah. So I want everyone in the committee to be aware that we are meeting, finance is meeting on Monday. And what we're going to do is finish going through the line item budget that we received, a few weeks back from Glenn. Thank you, Glenn. And what we need to do is vote on the line item budget at our next school committee, which will be the 20th. to make sure we have accepted it, and then we need to be able to start making transfers, which is the next thing. With the custodians agreeing to come back, what we need to do is transfer the money out of the unemployment account, which, just so the public understands, the savings on the custodians wasn't really going to even happen in the first year. It was going to be subsequent years. So between paying the new company plus the unemployment, we will come pretty close to being able to cover whatever we need to. So we're going to transfer money out of unemployment and then out of the expense line into the salary line. So we're going to do that on Monday, and then again, I'd like the whole committee to agree to that the following week. And the special donation is for the LCE, and it's I don't think I kept my paper.
$89.50.
Thank you. So for $8,950 is what we owe the balance on some
Build-out
the build out of I'll say like a handshake agreement that there was misinterpretation as to who owned the cost. But we do owe the money. So our special donation revolving account has more than $200,000 in it. So we were going to pay the $8,900 out of that.
Okay.
So we just wanted to make sure that the committee agreed. I don't know if we need a vote, but we do want to vote. Okay. So
I'll make a motion to pay the $89.50 LCE breakout cost out of the special donations.
Heather, do you want a second?
I'll second it.
Okay.
All right, so all in favor for that? Okay. Let's see, let's make sure. Oh, so the last thing is, the student fee, the activity fee. Last year, we were coming, or this year, as we were coming to a close in this, we were appropriated $500,000 by the city to cover the athletics and the extracurriculars, which weren't built into the budget at all. The total cost comes out to $600,000. Our previous superintendent said to kick off athletics, just like normal, go ahead, go. Unfortunately, that put us at a deficit of $40,000 as a get-go. So I've mentioned several times we could have a deficit in that account. Laureen's doing everything she can to close it. I don't know if it's going to be possible. Which means that there's a $60,000 shortfall in the stipends, which I have a couple more sheets here if you want to pass this around. This is last year's stipends that we paid for clubs and organizations, and that's what the teacher was talking about tonight. And the problem is that I think almost any one of these organizations is for the benefit of more than just the students who are there. I don't think anyone here wants to charge an activity fee. Wendy, you made the point at the beginning of the year that if we're going to charge a fee, we need to let the parents know. Nona, I agree with your point that, I don't know how well thought out our fee structure is. The problem is, we have a $60,000 shortfall in this account. We have to be able to pay these stipends. The theory that you pay for athletics, you need to pay for an activity, I think holds. I don't know if the thought process to put into who's paying for what or how we're paying was done. So I feel like, we appropriated the money. I believe it's up to the principals of those buildings to decide what runs, who gets what. I mean, it's built into the contract. It's not our decision as to who should pay or not pay. Policy went through the list.
Yes.
We did go through the list, and we did, and which everybody seems to
Forget.
not recall, that we were very clear on a number of occasions that if you were free and reduced lunch, there was a discounted fee, and that if anybody could not pay the fee or were struggling, that they could meet with, it was Lorene who's, the fees are being paid to, and she can make a case-by-case decision, because certainly people go through crises and have, certain things come up that they may not be able to pay,
Right.
and it would not prohibit,
Right.
someone
Well-
truly in need.
Yeah, I just want to make clear that when we did this, we were very thoughtful in making sure that it was clear that it was per student, not per activity, that no student who had a true need would be turned away from a club, that there were specific reasons why certain clubs, for example, why music at Skyview was not counted as a club, because Samoset fit it in during the day and we couldn't we were very clear and very thoughtful on the process that we went through, and we wanted it made clear, and we've said it a number of times, that the policy covers kids who cannot, really just cannot pay. They can still be part of this, and nobody's being excluded.
And I don't disagree. I think the problem is we're going to continue to have advisors come forward, just like, she made a very good point tonight, that her club is for the benefit of the community, and it's.
Right, but I think, you know.
But it
we
wasn't
say
on
that
the list,
about-
so Shine might be a great one, but when Dr. Lord came to us with his list of requests, it was not on there. So what I'm saying is, there's an opportunity to come, but they went to you, and they really need to come and
Oh, well, they
petition
came-
for
I
no,
mean, they
no.
came here,
But,
yeah, not to
yeah,
us.
no, we got an email saying, hey, what about this? If there's a good reason for a club to be exempt, and we're more than willing to hear these, but it has to come before
I
us.
think the other thing is, I mean, people who are doing athletics, they're getting charged a fee per athletic activity, not one fee for the entire year.
But I don't think we're
and-
counting that as a club.
No, I'm
she's
just
saying it
saying,
could be
Yeah.
I'm
$600
just
to
saying,
play sports.
Oh,
right,
okay.
you could be paying lots of money to play sports, and.
But all that money paying sports isn't paying the stipend, it's paying for bus service, it's paying
Well,
for.
but
We
it's
don't know
also,
what
we
it's
don't
paying
know what
for,
it's paying for,
honestly.
but it is going towards some of the stipends as well. It's to defer the cost. So what I'm saying is, you know, the people that we're charging for the other clubs, it's one fee for an entire year for the student. So, you know, when you're looking at, you know, certainly equity, and probably a lot of people who play sports are also on other clubs and activities. I know my kids were, you know, so, you know, I think that, in all fairness, you know, I think we're being very thoughtful, but we do need to charge a fee to support all these clubs, which everybody feels is very
Well,
important.
you know, like the band, I mean, honestly, I think they do a lot of events. I think we should pay, I mean, I don't mean us, but, you know, like when the city has a parade, I think we should pay them. I do. I think we should find a sponsor and pay them. It's, if Oakmont comes out or they go somewhere, they get paid to go. They charge to go.
But does that offset their fee?
I don't know, I don't know.
And see,
I'm not saying that, I'm just
And
saying,
the problem
there are a
is
lot of
stipend
areas
for-
that we
Right.
should be paying anyway.
And the
director.
problem is, though, now we're in November, right? So we've got these things running. We're going to owe as far as I'm concerned, and maybe I'm wrong, Glenn, but we're going to owe the teachers the stipends.
Yep.
And I think that we keep going around, right? So Dr. Lord says contact finance,
Right.
finance says contact policy.
Right.
I think we have a policy and we had an agreement as a committee and we need to
Yes.
stick with it. And this is growing pains and people are not happy, and I get it. because
And I
we'd
pushed
love to
this
offer everything for
through
free.
so that we could notify parents and not,
Ahead of
it didn't
time.
start right away, and
But
Yeah.
like that,
The first year, we instituted a fee for rentals for the, you know, rooms, a fee for the athletics. Nobody was happy, but now nobody even thinks twice about it.
I just don't know how else we'll pay the $60,000. It's not that I want
Right,
to
we
charge
don't have-
anyone. I just don't know how we'll come up with the money to cover it,
Exactly.
and I want to have the programs.
Right,
So
so we need to charge a fee.
And we were also clear about that the alternative was not having anything.
I think, I just want to make sure that this, you know, we've charged the administration with running this. This isn't our decision. This is the administration's decision as to what they want to run and what they can afford to run.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else?
well, my only contributions is this little talk session is like that kid that was saying, the one from the band. Yes, like Dean was saying, they go to this, they go to that, they're like almost ambassadors to the high school. And if they're going like ambassadors for the high school at all these events, and then we're charging them, that's like,
Well, I'm just saying, I think other
we can't- we- you know,
school
we
systems
can't- we
charge
can't-
for their
we can't
band.
play it two
And I think
ways.
people would be more than willing to pay for the
Right.
band.
And we're still paying for the stipend. I mean, it's the same issue of paying for the stipend.
Right.
it's a slippery slope that we are walking on.
So we
Well,
exempt
lots of
nothing
people-
then? I mean,
Well, I didn't say that, I didn't
Schools
say
charge
that.
a user fee.
Okay, so I think what the policy committee is saying is, look, we spent a lot of time on this.
We did.
So if
We
there's
had
somebody that wants to make
arguments.
a
Wendy was
motion
there,
change it, then they have to make a motion to change it, and then get a second, and then get enough votes to change it.
And they're welcome to come
Exactly.
before us and try and petition. And we've
Right.
had students come before us asking
Right.
for changes in
Yep.
policy, and we never turn anybody away who wants to come and speak before us
So
and make a case.
What about the woman who is here? Like, what?
Here's her comments here.
I think in
Yeah,
the next subcommittee meeting, we
So
can.
we,
can
can I
invite her
have
in.
her thing? I can invite her to come speak to come speak with us.
But I think, you know, it's every single
But we can't, yeah.
activity has value. Every single club
Of course,
Right.
they're all
does,
good.
you know, so we can't just pick and
No,
choose.
but they can
We
also
need
welcome to come and
ha-
speak. We won't
Right,
ever
but
turn
we
them
need to
away.
have a blanket, you know, policy because every club is deserving of no fees, but unfortunately, we can't keep having them if we don't charge a fee.
And the last thing is, we've requested this a couple of times, we're gonna get it hopefully for Monday, or for the following Monday, this is the last year's list, what our current list is, what the enrollment is.
Yeah,
those-
we asked for that at our last meeting too, and we were told we would have had it long before now.
Glenn's trying to recalculate based on their new salaries, because everything's a percentage of salary.
Right, but the
Enrollment.
part, the enrollment, we were told that would be quick and easy to get.
Because at one of those meetings that we had on policy, if you remember, Wendy and Cody, the discussion that we had was that there were gonna be, that it could come out that there would be some groups, some organization that if there was only one or two or three people, it would all of a sudden fall by the wayside.
That's what we're talking about, the enrollment list that we
Right,
were
right.
told.
And
That
so,
was the principal to decide that.
but.
Right, and
you
we
see, but
asked
the
him for
thing
these
is,
numbers.
Again, I go back to the statement that I said, and I was just saying it. It was like the drop-off statement. If we go always on the supposition that an organization or a group only has one or two people, and we decide it's not worth it, when does it happen that all of a sudden, one or two or three people want to have this organization, but they can't?
This is what, but this is.
That's all I'm
I
saying.
understand, and I'll tell you again, this is, if we could, one or two people or 20 people, it wouldn't matter. But we are in a situation where we have to look at the numbers, and if it's not fiscally responsible to have a club with one or two people because the stipend doesn't change, then we can't do it. And that's why Chris is supposed to bring us those numbers. Do we want to keep every club no matter how few people? Well, obviously, if somebody's in there, there's value to them. But we don't have that luxury right now. We've cut classroom teachers. We need sped positions. We can't justify it, Ronnie. And I explained this before, and I'm explaining it now.
So I think.
we
I
need.
think
That's why we need those
Wendy
numbers.
has offered them offered
Yes.
anybody that wants to come in to talk at the policy committee.
We're willing
that's
to
where this should
listen.
happen. No, but I'm saying that's
Yeah.
where their conversation
But we
needs to
also
happen.
need those numbers of enrollment, and.
And then you
yeah.
can come back and make a
Glenn, you're the
recommendation.
only administrator here right now that we are empowering with asking Chris. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, so done.
Okay.
She didn't answer?
Who's to,
She double thought.
a canned voicemail that won't let you leave a message.
Are you looking for her cell number?
Yeah.
I have that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm done.
Okay, anything else? Any new or old business? If not,
Motion
motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thank you. Good night.
So this is.